I'm so close to a finished book. Welcome back to Writer's Theory. I'm James Winterthorn, and today I'm going to talk about just how close I am to finishing the edit on my novel. I have been at it for a couple of weeks now. If the last video, I believe I was wrapping up the changes in the manuscript when I got back my copy from being reviewed by another person. So now I made those changes. I am double checking those changes because I have a tendency to just make the change and then not be thorough reading it, which is kind of, I should be more thorough than that, but I often am not. So I have to double check. So I'm checking those, and I've begun the final ChatGPT review. And that's what I'm going to share with you today. So I've got a couple clips of going through that process. So I'll explain what that is as I share that clip. But the manuscript's very close. I'm finding very few errors. Any of the suggestions I'm getting are generally just suggestions and judgments on my part whether to make certain changes or not. But we're getting so close. It won't be long that you'll be able to buy Ghosts Horizon on an ebook or a printed book. And then I'm going to move on to an audio book, which I've never done before. So I'm going to do that here on YouTube for everyone to watch. So looking forward to that process. So let me get into the first clip I have of going through the ChatGPT edit. I didn't record all the sessions. I'm trying to make good progress. And it is just easier to make the changes without recording them and editing the footage. But I still wanted to have something to share. So let's get into that first portion. Now, as you recall from when I shared previous ChatGPT sessions on previous editing sessions, it took me a while to realize that I had to go in small chunks with ChatGPT. So I tried to do whole chapters before, just plug in the whole thing and see what errors it came out with. And a whole chapter is just much too long. It found some errors, but it just didn't see others. And I know there's a limit to how much ChatGPT will give in an output, measured in tokens, which I'm not an expert on ChatGPT and AI and exactly what tokens are. I just understand that is a measurement by which the output is given, and there is a limit to it. So I can't expect it to return a whole chapter. It seems to me that the most thorough way to where it finds everything is half a page of prose, or about 100 to 150 words. That seems to be the pace at which it will collect everything and and I won't exceed that token limit. And so that's what I'm doing here is I'm entering a half page at a time. Because it's generally clear, like this is a pretty clean manuscript at this point. A lot of the suggestions it's making are more suggestions. Like there's a couple grammar things. There's a few things where it's more of a decision whether, let's say, something is a subordinate clause or whether there are two independent clauses that need to be separated with punctuation, but really punctuation decisions. And I asked it to follow the Chicago Manual of Style and have that be the guide, since that's generally how fiction publications are edited. It's hard to know if you don't know the rules. You can trust ChatGPT to a certain extent. Like, it will probably give you a good output for the most part, but it does hallucinate. It does just make things up sometimes. So you really do have to make the decision, or I'm making the decision, whether this punctuation is appropriate for this sentence. And that's kind of where we're at now. I found a couple of words here or there, like comrade versus camaraderie. Things like that I read through this how many times and just didn't know that was the change that needed to be made. But those are very few. And so it's more of, is this the appropriate punctuation decision for the Chicago Manual of Style and for how I want to convey the message in a particular sentence or phrase. So that's what I'm doing right now, is making those changes. And you have to apply a certain scrutiny when you get these outputs to make sure that you're making the change that you want to make that's appropriate. So let's carry on with the second clip that I have to show. It's just carrying on with the same work session that I recorded. Let's see what we got. So there's the camaraderie there. Some real basic things. It is funny to still find mistakes, but I do feel pretty confident in it. Even the times where it's suggesting a correction, much of the suggestions like we're seeing here are those found in dialogue, where a character may not speak in a grammatically correct way, and in which case I'm not going to clean that up. If the character is speaking in a certain way, it's the way I want them to talk. The thing that they're saying conveys what they intend to say, what I want them to say. Well, I'm not going to change those things unless it needs to be punctuated differently. But that's what a lot of the errors are that it's finding now, are just dialogue, grammatical concerns. So I'm glad to know it. I'm glad to know those are concerns. And I make each decision as I see it. And you can see I do make a fair amount of changes as I'm going through this. It is taking longer than I expected. I expected to breeze through this process. And this will probably take, it's hard to say. I'm going to guess 5 to 10 hours to do this final check. So it's still, there's still a good chunk of work to be done here. But I do want to put out a good product. I don't want there to be a lot of distracting errors. And want it to be readable and not have readers be distracted by just mistakes that I could have cleaned up. So will I have spent 2 to 3 times as much time editing this book versus writing it? I certainly will. That's probably less time than publishing houses spend putting out, commercial books. So that's pretty on point. This is still much faster than Chords of Fate went, in which we didn't have these AI tools to do a lot of the heavy lifting for us. So making good progress. Super excited. I'm so close. My intent is to wrap up this process before the next video next week and share the final edits with you, and figuring out just how to submit this to get it published on Amazon Kindle Direct Publishing. After I do that, we'll do a little celebration, pop some champagne, we'll do whatever happy dance I feel like doing, and order a physical book too. That's going to be exciting to see. I'm excited to compare what the physical printable book from Amazon looks like versus what I have through BookBaby, so you can look forward to that type of content as well. I'm very excited about it. Also very excited to move on to that audio book like I talked about. That's going to be a very interesting and fun process. At least I hope so. If you want to see how the rest of this project goes for me, or you're interested in other writing related content, well, please like and subscribe. I'm going to get back to editing this book, and I'll see you in the next video.